Hello right bags, it's Jade, welcome to a Valheim news video. Today we're going to cover some stuff from Richard, creator of Valheim, how he's showing off the Mistlands and basically how it's going to be revamped. Now it's only a picture a couple days ago, but I do want to talk about it as we go and explore what the Mistlands is right now. We're also going to go over an interview that three of the developers gave last night from Iron Gate to a Twitch streamer, filled with some great info. So if you absolutely love Valheim, just go and check it out too. And what's the story with water? Now we've got tar pits in Valheim where it's got liquid. What could we do in the future? Will you be able to have rivers in the game? Are you going to be able to build your own lakes and running water areas high up, not just near the coastlines? I've got some bad news on that front. So do leave a like if you love Valheim. If you love survival, make sure you're subscribed and let's go. Okay, so Half an Home's been out a good few weeks now, and I'm sure you've all enjoyed it. But invariably, talk is going to advance to what's next. You should know that the Mistlands is what's next, in the grand scope of big updates. But in between the Mistlands arriving, we are going to get some smaller content features just kind of added as and when the developers feel they're ready. But the big biome updates like the Mistlands, like the Ashlands, they will be a big events. They may take a good few months to get ready, and they're going to have enemies, new resources, and basically reasons to go and explore, obviously advancing towards the end game. So yes, it's still going to be a good few months before we see anything to do with the Mistlands. In my opinion, it could be potentially after Christmas. But don't worry and don't start angrily typing that Valheim has no content. Like I said, they are going to be adding lots of smaller things maybe to the game in between this and the big Mistlands update. That doesn't really maybe fit the Mistlands theme, or it's something they're working on. They've got more people working on the game now, and so definitely they have said they're going to ramp up the content. Now if you take a look at this picture, it just looks like a pretty wet surface, but Richard was pretty proud of the fact that it's looking pretty good. Like the lighting has changed, the atmosphere has changed, and this Mistlands, if it's going to be like this, is much more greener and maybe not as dark as foreboding as we've seen from the game right now. You can literally go and travel the world and you'll come across some of the biomes of the Mistlands. It's super dark, it's filled with all these cobwebs and these big ancient roots. But it looks like it's going to get a major revamp. In fact, everything you're seeing is pretty much just a placeholder, and the Mistlands of the future could be very, very different. I had always assumed that the biomes were kind of done, or at least the Mistlands was, and that we would simply just have the monsters spawned in and maybe some dungeons or whatever they're going to have in terms of why you go here to get certain resources. They'll be added in and that would be it. Job done. You've got the Mistlands, it's already ready to go. But it does look like they are really transforming how it looks, how it feels, the atmosphere, and of course the ground to make it more damp and I guess misty. So not advisable. You should know by now that in the future they're trying their best to make these areas explorable on your maps that you're currently playing on, but they can't always guarantee that will be the case. It seems like the tar was a good example of how things work in terms of resources that spawn, but in terms of regenerating new lands, what happens is that when you go to a new island, the island will always be the same for that seed. You'll always have that landmass looking exactly the same in terms of the hills, the height of it, its location. What changes every time you do a refresh or you haven't explored a new zone, it is to do with the resources that spawn, how they spawn, where they spawn. That's why if you ever share a map seed and someone says there's a great oak tree in the middle of a piece of land here and you go and try that map seed, that oak tree might not be there. So lots of this will be changing, lots of this will be different. The difference right here, at least anyway, is very, very more brighter. It seems like it's a bit more mistier without too much of the cobwebs. So maybe spiders won't be necessarily appearing in the Mistlands update. They may be just a bit more structured. It might have been a bit too mad having the spider webs absolutely everywhere. This is only one tiny little teaser. I don't think it's very worthwhile jump into too many conclusions about what or what won't be in there. But Richard was pretty proud of the textures. That's what he really liked about this. This is what he wanted to show. The cracks in the ground, the way that the water and the puddles are shimmering across the ground. You've got this dew and mist everywhere. The landscape also does look very much more flowy and more hilly, a bit maybe like the meadows at the moment, rather than sort of the dank, can't move anywhere because there's always a route in your way from the Mistlands as it is currently right now. So this is exciting stuff, but as I said, remember, honestly, I don't think this will be hitting until Christmas, maybe afterwards. Till then, we are going to get smaller updates with other content. Next up, someone asked Richard about the fluid mechanics with tar. So if you don't know now, the tar flows and moves and you can make yourself little tar moats that you could build a base in the middle of. But when you kind of do that with the water near the oceans and stuff, you can get the water to follow you a little bit, but eventually it doesn't really have the same sort of mechanics. It doesn't have that flow mechanics. You can't basically take a bucket of water like Minecraft and go and dump it into a hole you just dug. Now, I did get excited about the possibility of this. I thought it could be good, but Richard had said that it pretty much won't scale very well. Like, the system just won't be able to necessarily handle the different types of physics if you had everyone doing that with water and terraforming in that way. And we know from previous updates, it took them a bit of time to optimize some of the terraforming you can do, and it did cause a few issues. So the tar is a very small test case of it, but it's probably about as much as they're going to be able to do. So you might not ever be able to build your river moats going all the way through a landscape or creating lakes of water yourself. Richard said probably maybe in a future project they may look at something like that instead. And that was backed up by an interview that Frida developers did last night with Timo Redbeard. You should go and check him out on Twitch. I'm not going to play the interview. I will just give you a brief synopsis of some of the stuff they spoke about, but they did mention the fact that it's too taxing on the CPU, confirming what Richard's already said. So if you're expecting water to be like that in the future, no, unfortunately not. But go and give Timo a follow. Absolutely loves Valheim and Viking games. I'll leave his link in the comment section down below and check out. It starts around 4-hour mark in his 6-hour stream, and he spoke to the devs for nearly 2 hours. So loads of great info there. They covered a lot of things. They spoke about how some of them got their jobs, including Grimcod, the lead artist, Smithy, who helps with community management and testing, and Jonathan, a pixel artist or art guy that helps them do the art for the game too. Some of this stuff obviously I've covered when I interviewed Grim myself, and we spoke about bits and bobs in the past, but there was definitely some new information, particularly around server configurations, or basically being able to increase stuff. They've said that they are in discussions at the moment, whether or not it will happen now or maybe towards the end of the early access, that they may add server settings. So you may be able to increase certain resources or change certain things up, like add a hardcore mode, or possibly even an easy mode. That's what they were kind of speaking about within this, and that it's something they're still discussing. So no guarantees, but they are at least discussing it, and I think it would pretty much go hand in hand with what most games have nowadays, where you have an easier or harder mode, and hopefully you'll be able to increase stuff. As Timo here points out, that tar on dedicated servers and other resources can be really hard to get hold of, especially when you've got loads of builders on there, and so it would be nice if there's a way to increase how many resources you can get. They also reconfirmed their plans not to introduce mods until the game is ready to come out of early access. It would just simply create too much workload for them at the moment, but it's not necessarily something they're going to discount. No guarantees again that they're going to add mod support, but it is something they don't necessarily want to add in early access. And they briefly mentioned console plans, reiterating that it looks mostly like console happenings of Valheim won't happen until the games come out of early access on Steam. As I said, there was lots of other good info, so do go and check out that blog, that interview with the guys. Big shout out to Timo for getting the chance to interview these guys. So let me know what you think about that. What do you think about the Mistlands changing? I obviously don't mind. I feel like the Mistlands right now, it's hard to really judge it without enemies and actual resources. It looks okay, but it is very dark. It is pretty foreboding, and we've already got a biome like that in the sort of swamps. That said, I think with the plains being quite bright and sunny, it could be an interesting sort of middle ground between you go to the Ashlands, which is also going to be pretty bright and hot, we're guessing, in the future. But I do like the atmosphere of this picture. I do like the way the water's glinting off the puddles and the dew, and that mist gently rolling up hills and slopes rather than just being all condensed. That could be good too. But again, take it with a pinch of salt. They may still be adding all the trees and everything afterwards. This may literally just be a landmass without any resources on. So that's all it really is. It's just to show the textures of the ground and nothing more as far as I'm aware. So do let me know what you think about this, and are you excited about what's coming with Valheim. As soon as you get any news about any of the smaller content dropping, I'll be the first person to hopefully drop that to you. And until then, I'll see you rat bags later.